Hey guys, really quick, I wanted to take a second and talk about podcasting. Why? Because this medium has been the greatest thing to ever happen to me. A little over 5.5 years ago, I bought a $60 microphone and everything in my life has changed. I've gone on to build a successful business, live events, a lucrative speaking career, and I've been able to connect and become friends with some of the most influential thought leaders in the world, all because of podcasting. Now, you might not know this about me, but I've also helped multiple other people do the same thing. I usually work one-on-one with high-ticket clients to help them really build their brand. But so many people were asking me, Justin, I need to know the secret. So I've actually put together a masterclass. So if you head over to purposedrivenpodcaster.com, you can sign up for the masterclass today and learn exactly how I've been able to build this business, and you can too. This course is for wannabe podcasters and also podcasters who aren't getting the results that they want. Again, head over to purposedrivenpodcaster.com, grab your masterclass now, dive in, and take your life to the next level. Welcome to the Growth Now movement. I'm your host, Justin Shank. I'm an entrepreneur, speaker, and podcaster who years ago decided to go on a journey on how to grow in all areas of my life. What I found out was it's really a matter of focusing on the 4 pillars of life: business, relationships, spirituality, and wellness. And that's what we do here. We explore how to continuously grow in those areas, all while having a ton of fun doing it. I'm really excited you're on this journey with me. Now let's get to this week's episode. This week, I sit down with Cary Jack. Cary is a lifestyle entrepreneur, author, podcast host, and founder of The Happy Hustle. His mission is to educate, inspire, and entertain while reminding you to enjoy the journey, not just the destination. So you happy hustle for a life of passion and purpose. In this episode, we talk about the importance of finding that balance in your life to really strive for your goals and aspirations, but enjoy the process while you're doing it. So you see why Cary and I hit it off pretty quickly, because our mission and our vision is very, very similar. I think you guys are going to love this conversation. Now, before we dive into it, I want to remind you guys that Growth Now Summit Live is happening finally in May of 2022. We have about 60 tickets left, so head over to growthnowsummit.com, grab your tickets now, join myself and some of the world's top thought leaders, and really grow in those 4 pillars of your life: business, relationships, spirituality, and wellness, and take your life to the next level. growthnowsummit.com. Now, without further ado, let's get to the episode with Cary Jack. Cary, welcome to the show, man.
Hey, Justin. Honored to be here, brother.
Dude, I have never felt so comfortable with somebody that I literally just met. So I recorded for your podcast 2 days ago, and you've made some really, really cool introductions since then. But like, I feel like you're going to be one of those guys that's going to be in my circle for a long time, and I'm really excited about that. I'm excited to introduce you to my audience. But why don't we start off by you introducing yourself to my audience? Tell us who you are today, and then we'll unpack how you got there.
Yeah, man. First of all, I appreciate that and the kind words. And I feel the same, you're a bro for show. And I feel very grateful that we connected. A little bit about me. I grew up half surf and skate in Sarasota, Florida, kind of beach bumming it. And then half in Red Lodge, Montana, playing cowboy, camping, fishing, hunting, hiking. And so I'm the product of these 2 environments. Didn't have the easiest childhood. I know you didn't either. And came from pretty humble roots, but persevered past adversity, all sorts of things. Was going down the wrong path at some point in my teens, and had to make a pivot, and found myself really on the wrong side of the law for a while. And I was always hustling, but I wasn't always happy hustling. And so, so I just kind of, was always in it for like profit and success and like the glory. And it wasn't until I achieved it with my innovative tech startup in New York City. I was wearing the fancy suit and ties. If you look at me now, I look like a caveman with long hair and a camo shirt. But, at one point I was doing it, fancy suits and ties, tech startup, ink deals with Microsoft, IBM, a 7-figure VC funding deal. And, I got to the point where I had to basically sign the contract and, give 5 years of my life away, beholden to this money in this business. And I just couldn't do it, man. I couldn't do it. I was so burnt out. I was so unfulfilled. And my brother and business partner and best friend, he and I made the decision to say no to the funding deal, fold the company, scrap years of hard work. And I moved to Bangkok, Thailand, and kind of figured out a better way to work and live over there and just like find happiness within the hustle, a way to like make money and an impact. And that's kind of where the Happy Hustle was born. So now, that's kind of where I'm at, is just happy hustling. I host a podcast, which you've been on, and wrote a book about it, and have courses and masterminds and events and all the things. So yeah, that's where I'm at.
Dude, that's so wild. There's so many people who go, it's just 5 years of my life. It's just 5 years that I have to commit to doing something that I'm not in love with. And then after that, I'm set.
Yeah.
In a hall of hopes that everything takes off. And obviously, 7 figures sounds good to most people. Right. And so how do you walk away from that? But I want to go back a little bit, and then we'll dive into that whole moment. You talked about, a rough upbringing and obviously not necessarily the right side of the tracks. But talk a little bit about where the hustle mentality came from for you. Because obviously, like you said, you were hustling before, maybe it wasn't doing the right things, but where did that drive and determination to be quote unquote successful come from in you?
Yeah, definitely from my blue collar entrepreneurial parents. My dad owned an automotive shop and my mom was a chiropractor, but they both had their own businesses. So I got to see firsthand what it takes to be an entrepreneur and run your own business. And, I've always had that work ethic out of necessity, because we didn't just get things handed to us, we worked for them, and I think that's the lost art of raising a kid these days, where it's like it's this entitlement and everyone gets a trophy, and that's not really doing your kids any services, any favors in the long run. But that's where it came from, those two entrepreneurial parents.
I love that, because obviously that was a part that was skipped over, because I think so many times that idea always comes from somewhere. I don't believe in the idea that you're born an entrepreneur. I think it's something that it's learned, right? Like you learned it from your parents. My dad was an entrepreneur himself, a blue collar entrepreneur as well. But really I became an entrepreneur out of necessity, because I'm not very good with bosses. So that's
me either.
That's a whole different thing. But let's go back to that moment when you're like, do I sign this contract? Do I not? What was going through your head? And obviously, like you said, you put all this time and effort into building this company. What was that all about? Like, why did you say no?
Well, at the time I was chasing profit, success, this status. And I think that's what society instructs us to chase subconsciously, and so I fell victim to it, and I wanted the success and the glory and this huge exit and this company. Like, we built this really innovative algorithm to quantify feedback, and it has merit in a ton of different industries. And so these investors even saw it for greater than what my brother and I initially created it for. But what happened was, after many meetings and all these, these conversations of where it's headed and where it's going, we lost really our fuel, our motivation, because it was different from our initial vision, and that's what happens. You bend a little here, you bend a little there. Next thing you know, you're in bed with someone you probably morally and ethically shouldn't be. And then you conform to their ideas, and then you're unfulfilled and you're unhappy. So I saw that route, and where we were headed. I've always been intuitive and just, able to take accountability of myself, or not always, but at least I try my best. I don't even like that word try, but I do my best, to really take a step back, especially for big decisions like that. And I just realized that wasn't the route that I wanted for myself. And so we chose different. And there is that sunk cost fallacy, which I'm sure you and your audience are familiar with and have fell victim to as well.
Yeah.
But at some point you have to make a pivot, and you have to be brave. And so that's what we did.
Dude, man, kudos to you. Cause like I said earlier, like so many people would just be like, it's just 5 years. It's just 5 years of a commitment to really, like you said, big exit dollars and never have to worry again, quote unquote, worry about the money side of things. But you exit off into Thailand. I want to get into that portion of it, right? Like that's probably number one. I imagine there was a ton of culture shock. But number two, what were you experiencing over there? Like, what made you begin this path and this idea of like a different type of entrepreneurship and a different type of fulfillment in your life?
Yeah. Freedom, right? That was it. I wanted creative freedom, time freedom, and financial freedom.
Mm.
And I've never been a good employee. I've done a lot of things for money, most of which I'm not proud of. I was wearing a banana suit out front of a smoothie shop, an Italian restaurant server, a nightclub party promoter, a professional brand ambassador. I've done construction. I've did a less coordinated version of Magic Mike for a hot minute, like sold illegal things, all sorts of things that I shouldn't be doing. But when I realized what am I after and what is everyone after, it's freedom, And so I knew the fastest path to freedom was to create a business, to create my own reality and be in control of my schedule. And the fastest way to create a business is to figure out these 3 questions. 1, what problem do I feel called to solve? Right? 2, who exactly do I feel called to solve it for? Right? And then 3, what's my uniqueness and how can I exploit that in the service of other? And that framework I learned from Brand Builders Group, and it was a different internal questionnaire that I asked at the time in Thailand. But ultimately, now looking back, I distill it to those 3 questions. When other, aspiring happy hustlers ask me, I say, figure out those answers to those 3 questions, guys. And over in Thailand, I figured it out. Here's how I can serve. Here's some of my gifts. Now it's still an exploratory phase. I'm still on my journey, just like you are, and just like everyone out there listening is. But that's kind of where it stemmed from.
Yeah, dude, I love the idea that you're very similar to me in a sense of you're here to serve, right? You have figured out who you are serving, and then you took action and you started to do it, right? And I think that third piece, the taking action piece, is the thing that a lot of people miss. They don't take it, they have these dreams, they have these ideas, they go, this is what I want to do, but then all of a sudden something stops them, right? Something stops them from taking that step forward. What would you say to somebody who, look, they figured out what their niche is, right? They figured out what their superpower is. They figured out who it is they're supposed to be serving, but yet they're not willing and ready to do it. So what would you say to them in order to take that step forward? Because I know you serve a lot of the similar people that I do.
Yeah. I mean, at some point you have to get over the fear and the compare and despair. And Rory, my good buddy Rory Vaden, says, there is no fear when the mission to serve is clear. Right. And so when you are really clear and decisive on your mission to serve, you eliminate the fear. It's not about you when you're on stage. You make it about them. Yeah. It's not about me and you talking right now on this podcast. It's about who's ever listening, who needs to hear this message, and so the fear should dissipate, and you have to just start. You have to get over the fear, get out of your own head, get into your heart, and get to work.
I love that you said that, man. You have to think about the people you're serving, right? What type of impact are you making on them? A friend of mine, Preston Smiles, this is something I say a lot on my podcast, is at any given time, there's 75,000 people that need to hear your message specifically from you. Yeah. And how selfish of you not to show up for those people, right? So it's about really getting out of your own damn head, dude. I love that. I love that you said that for sure, right? So obviously you've built this huge brand called the Happy Hustler or Happy Hustle. You got the podcast, you got all the other things, and big fan of the messaging behind it. So where did that idea come from, and what does a happy hustle mean to you?
Yeah. So, I mean, the happy hustle really just came from scratching my own itch. I was like, I want to put the happy in my hustle. I want to get up and be excited about what I'm doing. I don't want to, sacrifice my soul in order to get a paycheck, So I figured out, okay, I'm going to first and foremost solve my own problems of I need to make money. I want to make an impact. How can I do that? Right. Yeah. And so it came from scratching my own itch first. Then I said, wow, I'm onto something here. The happy hustle, living this blissfully balanced life, both personally and professionally, actually enjoying the journey, not just the destination. See, that's where a lot of people go wrong is they grind their face off. And I was there, man, working 100+ hour weeks, getting less than 5 hours of sleep and just exhausted, burn out. And I figured out a better way, a way to be happy within the hustle. So what it means to me is being blissfully balanced. And for me, balance equals happiness. that's it. I'm putting it on my tombstone. Actually, I'm not going to get a tombstone. I'll probably just go crawl in the mountains somewhere, and you'll find me years later.
I'm pretty sure if you get cremated, it'll be spread amongst those mountains in Montana, right?
Exactly. But that's how strongly I believe that balance equals happiness. And here's the thing: balance is not a finite destination. It's a never-ending journey. So it requires constant pivots and tweaks and adjustments. And that's why I built this whole framework, this whole soul mapping framework, to quantify balance in each of these 10 areas of your life, and then to help others achieve it. And that's what the Happy Hustle is all about now, is helping others achieve that blissful balance.
Yeah. We talked a little bit on your podcast, and I was talking about the 4 pillars, and you talked about your 10 things. Let's talk a little bit about that. What is that framework that you're talking about? Like, going a little bit into the depth about that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I realized 10 things is difficult for people to remember all 10. So we made it into an acronym. It's soul mapping, your soul's map to the balanced promised land. And, S is selfless service. And as I go through each of these, this is what I do every Sunday. And I actually have a quiz. You can take it online if you want. Pretty simply just go to caryjack.com/quiz, or we can do it right now. For all the listeners out there, actually write down where you rank 1 to 5 in each of these alignments. And Justin, I urge you to think about it too for yourself, because it's always, it's always shocking to see when you do self-quantification, where you may be lacking. And that's what it takes in order to really make change. What you measure, you can manage, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
S is selfless service. And I measure 1 to 5. 5 is an A, like you're crushing it. 1 is an F. And as I mentioned, I wasn't much for school, but I do know the grading scale. So I relate it to the grading scale. 5 is you're crushing it in selfless service, meaning you're volunteering, you're giving to others. You're not just living for yourself. 1 is an F. And think about last week. Don't think too far back. Think about last week, because I do this every Sunday. S, selfless service. Where do you rank? 1 to 5. O, optimize health. Without health, you can't be running events like you do, or hosting podcasts, or at your peak state if you don't have health, and both mental and physical health. So ask yourself right now, where are you at with your health? 1 to 5. You unplug digitally. We're so connected these days. You and I know, like we have online businesses, so we have to use
screen
tech
all day. Yeah.
Yeah. So you have to use tech, but you can't let it use you. Right. And so you have to mitigate your EMF exposure. And, I have some like Happy Hustle hacks for each of these different 10 alignments, like things that I do to make sure. And I go, deep down the rabbit hole in my book, all about like each of these things. So if you are a 1, how you can get to a 5, but for this part, for time's sake, we'll just help people quantify. But if you're always plugged in, watching Netflix, streaming shows, or, looking at Instagram, be honest with your assessment. Where you at 1 to 5 and unplug digitally. And then L, loving relationships. And this is, if you don't have love in your life, what's it all for? That's why we do what we do, is to give to people we care about, to connect with those we care for. And I think, it's sad to me. A lot of entrepreneurs, they push their family and their friends to the side upon their ascent. And then they get to the mountaintop and they look around and they're the only one there,
Yeah.
They alienated everyone. Right.
Yeah. I see it all the time.
Oh, I know you do. And as do I. And so I really didn't want to be that, and I'm still working on myself in each one of these areas. I'm just a reporter. I'm not the guru. And so I'm figuring it out, but that's the soul part. So you measure yourself in each of those different areas, 1 to 5. And then you get to the mapping part, right? And so M, mindful spirituality, it's important to have faith in a higher power. How connected to you or to a higher power are you? I don't care what you believe in, but just believe in something, and so 1 to 5, rank yourself. A, abundance financially. You got to have money to be a happy hustler. You're not living paycheck to paycheck. You have to have multiple streams of revenue and be able to, do what you want with who you want as much as you want. Right. Like,
dude, if you don't have money, the stress level is so insanely high, it paralyzes you from doing anything else. So it makes total sense.
So true. And it's not all about the money. That's the thing. Like, that's why, you look at like the 10 alignments, like I'm going to tell you the biggest secret to all of them, to like actually achieving balance in all of them. It's to give equal importance on each of these different alignments, but focus on one at a time. So you give equal importance to each of these different areas of your life, but you focus at one at a time. While you're on your Zoom meeting with your boss, you're not thinking about your date night with your lover. When you're at your date night with your lover, you're not thinking about your work with your boss or any of the stress. Like that's what I see is so it's gut wrenching to witness someone who is not there present, and they're just like, and it's someone who I once was, Yeah. So, I do it now again, just from experience, to really focus on being present and giving equal importance, but one at a time. So the M, mindful spirituality, A, abundance financially, then the P, the first P, personal development, which I know you're big into, like that's what we're talking about, growing, like, evolving. You're either growing and evolving, or you're shrinking and dissolving, right? So where are you at in this realm? Like, it's really important. And I use this 90 minutes personal growth system, where I just read 30 minutes every morning, listen to something inspirational and educational every afternoon for 30 minutes, and then watch something educational and inspirational every evening. And I use those 3 different mediums because we all learn in different ways. I know you're visual, you talked about it, but like those 90 minutes, 5 days a week, I'm heading the right direction. I'm trending upwards. I'm growing, And that's why you guys are all listening to this podcast with Justin, because you're growing listening to it, So kudos to you. P, the other P, this one I love, and this is one of my favorites, is passionate hobbies. Like I find a lot of entrepreneurs especially neglect this alignment, where they're not doing fun things,
Well, they convince themselves that their business is their hobby.
Exactly. You nailed it. And for me, I love fly fishing, I love horseback riding and getting out there and training martial arts and just playing soccer, like these things are non-negotiables for me. And I treat them on my calendar with the same importance as this podcast interview, as I do with, my book writing session, or, whatever, right? My date nights, all of it. Then the I, impactful work, right? Answer those 3 questions to get that impactful work. Like, use your passion, your purpose, and your positive to create a positive impact, and then the N, nature connection, getting outdoors, connecting with Mother Nature and protecting it. Like our beautiful planet, we're decimating our natural resources. Here's just a quick tip: plant some damn trees. Okay. And, although I eat red meat and a balanced diet, eat a little less of it, and be diligent of your source. And those 2 changes alone, being a little more plant-based and actually planting trees, can make a big impact on our planet. So I'm a passionate eco warrior, and I love getting outside in nature, but rank yourself in each of those 10 areas, and if you want to do it the simple way, you can go take the quiz, caryjack.com/quiz. But that's the ramble on the soul map and alignments.
No, that's huge, man. In those last 10 minutes, I think, or 5 minutes or so, I don't even know. I think people should go back and listen, right? Like that in itself is worth the price of admission to this podcast, the free price that you guys pay that are listening. It's absolutely genius to think about, okay, what are the check marks in my life that I have to go down to make sure that I'm living in alignment, that I'm living a fulfilled life and doing all these things, man. It's absolutely smart. And I also love the hobbies thing. I think, especially, here's why I love it. Because with you use the word hustle. And a lot of times the word hustle is pertained to the 100 hours a week, working your ass off, doing the thing. By the way, I've done the 100 hours a week thing before too. I was miserable.
Yeah.
And so that's just not the case, right? Like you're redefining the word in a sense. Like, look, you can have your cake and eat it too. You can live the life that you want to live, and also reap the rewards of hard work. And I think that's something that's absolutely beautiful, man. So you keep talking about this book. Let's talk a little bit about the book. Like, obviously, what type of things are people getting in it? When should they expect it?
Yeah. So we're launching it in November 2021. And yeah, the book is just a culmination of my study, and diligence on the work-life balance topic, and really distilling into, literary form, these 10 alignments with, a actionable takeaway for each, happy hustler spotlight, like someone out there in the world who's actually really good in this area, powerful resources, like tactical tips, a funny story, an embarrassing fact, each one of those elements for each of those 10 alignments. And it really goes into depth on how you can actually apply this stuff where, you're not just like talking about it in theory. It's not going to become another like half read self-improvement book on your shelf. That's the goal. Like, it's like actually going to be a catalyst for true change. And I actually have this fridge magnet that you take the 10 alignments, you put it on your fridge, and you fill out an action task for each of these 10 alignments. And every day you look at your fridge and you say, did I go volunteer for 15 minutes? Check. Yeah. Selfless service. Hey, did I do my 25-minute workout? Check. Okay. Hey, did I make a cold call or send an email to a potential prospect to enhance my, revenue? Check. Okay. It's like you measure yourself. So it's like I put this practical system into the book. I baked it all in. It's weaved in. And then there's, resources with an online course and then resources with the fridge magnet. And like, it's just really practical, application of this knowledge and how to avoid the burnout and actually achieve blissful balance.
That's huge, man. I love everything that you're putting out there right now. So obviously with my podcast, I've had the pleasure of interviewing some of the world's most successful people, however you want to define success. So my question for you is, how do you define success? And what are 3 things you do every single day to ensure that success for yourself?
Love that question, man. For me, success is about really infusing my passion, doing what I love for my purpose, meaning who am I serving, and making a positive impact in the process, while, key point here, having fun, actually enjoying my life, with the freedom and the fulfillment. That's success to me. Like it's as simple as that. And the 3 things I do to ensure, my success. One, obviously some form of gratitude. You can call it meditation, you can call it journaling, you can call it gratitude, breath work, whatever. Some point throughout my day, usually 2 times a day, I'm spending time alone. I'm practicing gratitude and I'm doing my positive affirmations. Usually I'm on my rebounder. I'm just training my subconscious, and I live in that grateful, abundant state. Okay. And that's like, if you guys take nothing else away from this podcast, just do that, spend some time today, find 5 to 10 things you're grateful for and write them down, like that's it. Right. Yeah. The second thing to ensure success is I fill my own cup, I fill my own cup by doing things that I enjoy, that give me energy. I chase things that give me energy. Right. One, working out, moving my body, like practicing martial arts, being, just like flexible. I pride myself on staying ninja, that's something I really, I write it on my board. I say, I will never not have a 6-pack and I will never not be able to throw a high kick. Like, I don't care if I'm 90, I'm going to have it, and it's a commitment to myself, and it's not a vain thing. It's just, I want to always be vigilant and be able to protect and I also just appreciate martial arts that much that I don't want to do it half-ass, Yeah. So, and whether that's filling my cup with fly fishing or going horseback riding, you fill your cup, right? So you got the gratitude piece, and then you fill your cup doing activities. And then the third piece to ensure my success is I focus on what matters, and that's prioritizing my relationships, my fiance, Steph, my dogs, because we don't have kids yet, but soon, hopefully, my family, really focusing on that. And those 3 things, really ensure my success. And then service, obviously, service in some capacity with my mission. But, those take the priority to really ensure success.
I love it. I will say this, your greatest obstacle of keeping the 6-pack into your 90s will be your children. When they finally come around, it's like, when am I getting this workout in? When am I, oh wait, I want to eat some of your mac and cheese. That becomes part of it as well. So so that'll be your greatest challenge, man. So
I'll keep you posted on that.
I love everything that you're talking about, man. Like I had said earlier, but one thing I'm curious of, obviously you went through what you went through in New York for, build this business, burnt yourself out. had to say no to this thing. Do you feel like you had to go through that struggle moment in your life in order to attain what you have now?
I would say yes. Short answer. I would say I probably could have got here in a different way. It didn't have to be necessarily through that fire. Could have been through another. Like I know you were doing it through the corporate grind and then got burnt out. And, and I think a lot of people can relate to that path. But just for me, I think in order to know, like how sweet life can be, you have to know how just absolutely wretched and tragic it can be, like, or else if you don't have that yin and that yang, that ebb and that flow, like there's nothing to compare it to.
Dude, I love that saying too. I say it pretty often, like right today here, it's been raining literally all day, but without a day, and it's like, oh man, I wish it was nicer, but without days like this, I wouldn't appreciate those days that are beautiful and sunny and so on and so forth. Right. So I think that's true. Like I've always wondered that, because I look at my life and the adversity that I had gone through, and I go, if it weren't for that adversity, would I be doing what I'm doing now? Or would I still be stuck in some sort of corporate grind of just, let's just get through the day. And it's interesting. I mean, most successful people I know have gone through some sort of moment, like realization moment, that was hard for them to kind of battle through. So it's interesting. I was just curious out of that one. But look, my show is called The Growth Now Movement. So I wrap up with the same question every time. But before we get there, how do people get a hold of you? Where do they find you? Where do they follow you? Where can they lock into your mountain retreats that you do? What's all the good stuff?
Oh yeah, man. I appreciate that. I mean, thehappyhustle.com is like a catch-all for everything. If you want, you can start by just getting the quiz. It's free. Do the quiz, caryjack.com/quiz, or thehappyhustle.com. It'll take you can click on the option to take the quiz. If you feel called to get the book, amazing. Again, you can get that at thehappyhustle.com. I would love to hear what you think about it too. Like I hope it's not just, oh, I got it. Now, like, I want you to actually read it. You know what I mean? And then, I do host some pretty awesome, like I call them Montana masterminds. I live out here in beautiful Montana. So I take high-level entrepreneurs into the backcountry wilderness, camping for 5 days. We hike in 10 miles. It's all remote, very rural. I get a primitive survival expert and U.S. Marine who comes, fly fishing expert, and then we do business masterminds and these awesome, like, experiential learning sessions. And it's just so powerful to be disconnected, to the modern world and just reconnected to yourself and your soul and these other brothers and sisters. It's so you can check that out. It's just caryjack.com. It'll take you to check it all out. Obviously, listen to the episode of the Happy Hustle podcast with Justin. He crushed that episode, and really excited to share it with my audience because it was really inspiring. And yeah, man, just Instagram, Cary Jack. You can check me out there, Cary__Jack, I think. And yeah, man, just pretty easy to find.
And you can see the evolution from supermodel to mountain man. Like, dude, I got to say, I went to your website for the first time and I was like, yo, he looks like a completely different person. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Let myself go.
Dude, but I love it, man. Like you're living the life that you want to live right now. And who knows, you'll probably trim it up and cut the hair again someday and get on some cover of some magazine real quick. Right. It's just, that's the happy hustle way.
Yeah, it is. It's funny, man. Well, cause I've been in the entertainment world for like 15 years. So, you kind of play the game, and this look that I got, the long hair and beard is not necessarily the game. So I play my own game now, but what's funny enough, I've been getting roles, even like I do it just for fun. It's just for fun.
Yeah.
I don't depend on any of it. Like, it's cool. I book it. I do want to write, direct, and star my own feature film series. And that's a goal that I've been working on, but that's, again, just to share the message further, to entertain. But the entertainment world, it has been fun. So yeah, you want to see a contrast of old me and new me, go ahead and look. It's on there, caryjack.com.
I love it, man. I love it. So like I said, I wrap up every single interview with the same question. And that question is, in your life, what has been your biggest moment of growth?
Well, probably when I was wearing an orange jumpsuit and brown plastic clogs, and I was getting ushered with my hands handcuffed behind my back into my cell, which wasn't really my cell. It was mine and 7 other inmates. And I, got shoved into this lion's den and heard the slam of the iron bars, climbed up this rickety bunk bed and like laid on this ice cold, just terrible mattress and just laid there with my eyes open, wondering which one of these, inmates was going to test me. And I was just in horror and shock and sadness and despair of how I landed here, like how I retraced my steps of how I went down the wrong path, made poor choices, and now I'm paying for it and the consequences, and so that moment of truth, when my freedom was revoked, when I had no options, that was the biggest moment of growth, because when I finally did get out of there, I realized I never want to go back. I never want to, break the law again. I never want to roll the dice. I want to use my powers for good. I want to put the happy in my hustle, and I changed my ways, man. And that was just definitely, the biggest moment of growth, and wasn't easy, but I'm grateful for it.
Dude, that's huge, man. Thank you for sharing that. I feel like you're going to have to come back on the podcast in the future. We'll break down that whole story a little bit deeper. Holy moly. Yeah. But honestly, man, I just want to thank you so much for doing what you're doing, for spreading the message that needs to be heard, because there are so many people that are hustling unhappily, and they need to figure out how to turn that switch, man. We only got one life that we remember, at least. And so, when you look at that, to go down the path the wrong way until the end, whether you end up behind bars, you end up on your deathbed and you go, man, I did this wrong. Thank you for leading the way in that conversation to understand, hey, let's live a little bit happier, man. You are the man to lead it. So thank you.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate you, and I appreciate how you show up in the world, man. It's just it's an honor to share the mic with you, and I'm looking forward to many more collaborations in the future.
Absolutely, man. Thank you.
Thank you guys so much for being a part of the Growth Now movement. This is how you can really help me out. If you guys enjoyed this episode, please share it out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all that fun stuff. And let's grow this movement to epic heights. And it's all going to be because of you guys. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next week.